Very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the academic hour program conducted by the GMOA Academic Subcommittee. Today, the topic is very much important for all of us with this current increased trend of migration. So I'm sure all of you are eagerly waiting to clarify your doubts. So our topic today is about IELTS. Is IELTS difficult to get through? So to discuss about this topic, we have invited two resource persons from the British Council of Sri Lanka, Mr. Dominic Hudson, Direct Exams Sri Lanka, and Mr. Shanitha Piris, Marketing Manager Exams. Good morning to both of you and welcome to the GMOA. And also Dr. Rajiv Menon is with me to continue the discussion.
Good morning, everybody. As Dr. Charuni mentioned, we will be discussing about IELTS and English proficiency examinations for professionals in Sri Lanka. So I think first I will, to start off today's discussions, I would like to invite Mr. Dominic Hudson, Director of Exams, IELTS in British Council, Sri Lanka, to give a small briefing about what British Council is and how the role that they play in Sri Lanka. If you can give a small introduction, Mr. Hudson.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to talk to you. Before I moved to Sri Lanka 3 months ago, I was working in Africa in British Council for Exams. I spent 20 years as an English teacher and was also an IELTS examiner for some years. At British Council, we have a general purpose to support peace and prosperity by building connections, understanding and trust between people in the UK and other countries. We have over 80 years expertise in delivering English language education and qualifications, and we have over 100 million learners worldwide each year. We've worked with students and teachers in Sri Lanka for over 70 years, and one way that we try to create international opportunities is through UK qualifications. Other areas we work in are arts, education and society. I think in Sri Lanka we're fortunate to have earned a strong reputation and to be trusted by people. As well as being in Colombo, we have offices in Kandy and Jaffna, and we also have a partner centre in Matra in the south. We have over 200 staff, including a large number of teachers. And as well as those offices, we deliver exams in many of the cities, all of the large cities in Sri Lanka. I'll talk just briefly about English language. It allows us to communicate across borders. It allows us to build bridges internationally. Estimates of the number of users of English varies a lot. They tend to be around 1.5 billion, but it's likely that perhaps as many as 4 billion, half of the world's population, use English to communicate. It can help further education and careers, of course, and it opens diverse areas of study. So people hopefully have better access to those areas of study and also high impact and interesting jobs. There's also the opportunity to improve life prospects and create a foundation for contributing positively in communities and globally, much more widely. That's just a brief introduction really to British Council itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. And my first question to Mr. Shanitha Piris is about IELTS. Can you please give us a brief introduction to IELTS regarding to the cost, components of the exam, how frequently it is held, and whether we have to do it online or in person, like that. Can you please give us a brief introduction?
Good morning. So I will give some information on overall IELTS as well as regarding the information you want requested. So IELTS is an abbreviation. It's International English Language Testing System, which is recognized all over the world. It's about 11,000 organizations and immigration agents recognize IELTS as a proficiency test, and it's carried out in 160 countries worldwide, and Sri Lanka is one of them. IELTS has two variants. IELTS exam is common wherever you take it, and it's highly standardized exam. We do have a special exam called UKVI. It is mainly for the candidates who go to UK. So for visa requirement, they will request to take a UKVI IELTS, which is the same as IELTS. Only change is that it is recorded for the purpose of the immigration department. So nothing to worry about whether you are asked to take a UKVI IELTS or a life skill. So it will be the same exam as IELTS. So there is a slight change when it comes to life skills, which is for the spouses who are going to England. So whoever who travels to UK, which if you are traveling with your spouse, then definitely they will ask for a life skills test, which is tested on listening and speaking, which is essential for the day-to-day life in UK. So it's only a component of IELTS. That's why we call it life skills. So we have, when it comes to IELTS, there is academic testing as well as general testing. So there are two types. Whoever who goes for higher studies or for masters, undergrads, will be asked to give you results in IELTS academic. And people who migrate to live in a foreign country, especially an English-speaking country, and if you are taking a job opportunity in a foreign country, then they will ask you to give general testing IELTS results. So there are two kinds of IELTS. So this IELTS is testing you on your skills of handling English. It's the components of listening, reading, writing and speaking. So these are the components which is tested in IELTS, where to show your proficiency, how you can handle the English language. So it's the results are given from scores 1 to 9, 1 being a very poor handler of English language, and number 9 becomes the native speaker or the excellent handler of the English language. So you will have a range of marks which will be requested from you according to the organization you are joining. If it is a university, they might, for an undergrad, they will ask about 6.5 overall score with a specific score for a component. But if it is like if you are going for a higher like MBA or a PhD, then they will ask 7 or little more than 7 score. So it depends on what organization you join or what university you are joining. They will have their own score level for you to hand them out. And the test is held all over Sri Lanka. We have in Colombo, we have it in Kandy, we have Jaffna, then we deliver it in Batticaloa, Kurunegala, then we have it in Gampahat, Negombo, Mathura. So it's been expanded furthermore. Wherever we know that our test takers are familiar to come up with, we will be having test centers, and it can be taken in IELTS on paper, which is most common testing method which we are familiar with taking a test. So also the newer novelty which we have introduced is the IELTS on computer, where you type in a computer rather than writing on a paper. So there are ways of you choosing. It's very easy for you to choose the way you want to sit for the IELTS. But your speaking component will be face to face with the examiner, whether you take an IELTS on paper or IELTS on computer. So it'll be an interview with the examiner. So that will be a face to face. You don't though you take a IELTS on computer, it will be not be computer like artificial intelligence checking you, but it will be a human being talking to you. And if you take IELTS on paper, there will be about 4 tests a month where you could choose when you want to take it. But in IELTS on computer, you can take it any day of the week. We have it from Tuesday to Sunday, and you can take it either morning session, afternoon session. So we have sessions, so it's very convenient for you. We have made it easy and convenient for you to do your test. Then also this test results, you will be interested to know once you take a test every year, should I do the test? No. Once you get your test results, it will be valid for 2 years. So if you sit this month in January, your test results will be valid until 2025 January. So there is a 2-year validity for the test results, so you can use it until then. So you also maybe since a lot of doctors go for their foreign training to UK, Australia, New Zealand, most of the English speaking countries, you will be able to take this IELTS test, which is most recognized in the world. And if your children are also attending school in those countries, you may want to know whether they also should know to have a English proficiency test. Most of the time the schools may not ask for a proficiency testing. They will have their own test on English to check how proficient are the children. But we also have a test called PET, which is from 12 years and above, which also gives a similar testing on all the 4 skills, but it will be, the standard will be slightly lower than IELTS. So that is mainly for the teenagers and up to 20 years, or maybe up to adults you can take, but it's mainly for teenagers when they want to take it. So those are the testings which we handle at British Council, especially for language proficiency. Thanks.
Right. Thank you, Sharika, for that broad explanation on IELTS. Yes. Next, I think we just want to remind all our members who have connected that if you do have any question while this discussion is going on, you can always add into the chat box. We will be monitoring, and if there is any relevant questions, we will be able to direct the question to the our panel. So the next question is directed at Mr. Dominic Hudson. Mr. Dominic, if you could tell me, elaborate a little bit on the score bands which is required for each component and its significance. If a candidate doesn't achieve the target band in a particular component, can she repeat only that or redo the whole exam, or is it necessary to take up the exam, or is there a duration of time that you need to take up the exam? If you could explain that to us, Dominic.
Yeah, thanks very much. My general advice would always be to check with the university if you're going to study on their requirement, and if you're migrating, to check with the country's migration authority. In general, for the health sector in the UK, the test that people will need is the UKVI academic test. But always check with the on the exact requirement. For doctors, the requirement is the highest, and that's an overall IELTS band score of 7.5 and a minimum score in each of the 4 skills of 7. For nurses and midwives, it is generally an overall score of 7, and with a writing score which can be 6.5, so long as the overall score is 7 or more. If people are trying to assess, are you ready to take the IELTS exam? If you are curious to know, are you likely to pass? I would recommend a diagnostic, an English assessment that you can take quickly and freely available. On mobiles, on smartphones, people can download English Score. So if anyone goes to English Score, searches that, you'll find it on the App Store or Play Store. It's a simple download, and it's a 40-minute test that your smartphone allows you to test speaking, reading, writing and listening, and it will give you an overall score and a skill score. Those scores are according to the Common European Framework for Reference of Language. That's a CEFR score. And in the health sector, you would generally need very high B2 or C1 within that CEFR framework. So that's would be my general advice. Take that free test. It's a quick and straightforward test to take, and it will indicate if you are likely to be ready and likely to do well in the IELTS. In terms of the IELTS itself, recruiters, universities, migration authorities, they're looking for an ability to communicate, to use English, to understand it effectively. And so it's an opportunity to prove your abilities. In terms of the components, if someone is not successful taking the test, then they can retake the test. It has to be the full test within 6 months, and any improved skill score will count towards the overall best score. At the moment, it's not possible to take only one skill component, but we have heard that request before, that would be useful, and it's likely that soon we will offer a one skill retest. Okay, I think that answers most of the questions. Is there any follow-up to that?
Yeah, actually there's a question with regard to the app. They're asking to repeat the name of the app, I think.
Okay, the free English diagnostic test is called English Score, as in score a goal. So if you search that on your smartphone, you'll find that you can download that in a minute or two, and then the actual test, the English Score test, takes about 40 minutes.
Right, thank you.
Okay. My next question is also to Mr. Hudson. And you know that we doctors are very busy working day and night throughout. So what is the best method to prepare for each component for a busy professionals like us?
Okay, yes. I think I'd repeat my last advice. Take an English diagnostic before you go and register for the IELTS test. We want you to be confident, we want you to be prepared. We hope that you will get the required score that you need in IELTS the first time. So depending on the indicative score from that diagnostic, you then may feel happy and confident to register and take the IELTS test. If one of the skills is a little weaker, or you feel that you need to improve on one of the scores, on one of the skills, then that would guide you. Do you want to perhaps improve reading skills, or does the test indicate you might want to improve writing? And then you can retake that English score test as many times as you like. I think in terms of preparing for busy professionals, perhaps the best answer to that is, again, to use a smartphone app. And British Council have an app called the IELTS app. So again, on your smartphones, if you look for IELTS.
Mr. Sanita, so if you can give us a small brief on the resources, at least the essential resources that can be accessed free or even paid, and if you can recommend a few resources that we can go through to get a better band score, if you can enlighten us on that, Mr. Shanit.
Yes, so British Council offers several free preparation material for the candidates who take IELTS with us. So we do always we pressurize you on preparing before you sit for the exam. I'm sure all the doctors are familiar with that, because your exams are much more harder than an English test. But yes, this test, IELTS, is a technical test. So you need to, however you are familiar with the language, you may be you may have learned in English from your A-levels, but it's a technical area where you need to give your technical skills on handling the English language. So that is why we have a lot of support services for the candidates who take IELTS with us. So we give a practice book which is which has a lot of areas to it explains where to improve your skills, and we have practice tests include in the material, and also we have a listening part also in that practice book, which is we give it on PDF form online, so you can do your practice at your being busy people, you can do your practice at your own pace, but practice is a must. And also we conduct online workshops on all 4 skills, which is free to air, so you can join one of those online workshops and get tips from the IELTS experts. And one of the most common areas which we have come across is the writing module, writing skill, which we have a special class on a workshop class online to improve your writing skill. Also, a lot of doctors would like to have a online test which is called the IELTS on computer. On our website on takeielts.org, we have a familiarization test which you can do a full test on your computer, which allows you to get familiarized with the IELTS on computer. So all the 4 skills are being given to you to practice for the full time of the exam, which is 1 hour and 40 minutes and a 15-minute speaking test. So please do check out our website takeielts.org. So you can go and check. Lot of materials are there, even on the other components. You can have there are a lot of videos, practice tests available there. Then our website also has a lot of information regarding practice and preparation, so you can do your preparation. And there is another very useful online preparation material called Road to IELTS, which is also available free to air. If you just type your in your browser, in your computer, Road to IELTS, you will be able to go into the Clarity English website, which is also jointly working with British Council. And British Council also offers 2 free tests which you will get guidance, professional guidance regarding your skill level on IELTS. So we give access to that when you register because we want you to do your pre-practicing before you sit for the actual exam. We also have branches in Colombo, Kandy and Jaffna, where we have our teaching centers which we offer the IELTS courses which you can enroll and learn. And we also have the online IELTS course, plus we have our island-wide partners, British Council IELTS partners, who also do preparation courses, where you can log into britishcouncil.lk website and see who are partners, who are the partners who are in closest proximity to your place where you live. So you can use, there is a lot of material which is given free for you to do your practice. Only thing is you need to find your time and do your practice. So how much ever you are busy, we do recommend to prepare for the exam before you sit.
Thank you, Mr. Shanita, for that explanation. And my next question is for Mr. Dominic. Statistically, which components seem to be poor among Sri Lankans who are facing the IELTS, and also your suggestions to improve them? And also add on with the previous question which we faced with the technical problem, the best methods to prepare for each component for a busy professional. Over to you, Mr. Dominic.
Thank you. I'm happy to rejoin. I'll go back to the point on how can busy people practice the different skills of IELTS. I suppose the simplest answer to that is try to do what you normally do with a focus on an English assessment. So if you read a lot of medical journals, if you read medical reports, try to be conscious, try to be aware of the range of language within the report. Is it written in different tenses, the past, present, future? Are there conditional sentences? Are there proposals? Very often more advanced articles will have a discursive element discussing pros and cons of a treatment or various outcomes of a treatment or a disease or illness. That is exactly the kind of language that you will find in the reading skill test, and it's also what will be expected of you in the writing test. So that's what I would advise, as well as journals, any sort of professional level writing, because IELTS is focused on formal language. You should try to maximise your time with formal input. So that may be international newspapers, it might be on listening, for example, that might be a spoken radio show. So in the UK, a good example would be BBC Radio 4. It's not a music programme, it's all about interviews. Occasionally there are monologues, occasionally there's a group discussion, and those are the types of listening that you will find in the listening skill test. So try to maximise what you already do, but you might also add some new media. In terms of writing and speaking, the productive skills, it's very useful to be aware of the marking criteria. So for the writing test, and to answer the second question, writing is probably the skill which Sri Lankans find the hardest. and some people find that a challenge. So the actual marking scheme has 4 elements. When you're writing your IELTS test, you will be assessed on task achievement. So do you answer the question? Task 1 in the writing, which you will get a third of your writing mark from, is to describe and to analyse a diagram or a chart. So for that you need to use factual language. You may use past tenses if you're reporting a past data, and you would need to comment on trends in the data, increases, declines, whether there's fluctuation, and use probably a lot of adjectives and adverbs to qualify your description. In the second task of writing, it's a discursive piece of writing, and you're expected to give 2 sides or different elements of a discussion. So an example might be education is overfunded in the world. Discuss. In that, you would have to not only just give your own opinion, but a good answer would describe positive and negative arguments, and then you might arrive at your conclusion, your opinion. So, any sort of reading around discursive writing, of discursive prose will help with that. Moving to the other elements in the writing, as well as task achievement, there are 3 others: grammatical range and accuracy, lexical resource, so that's the vocabulary you have, and coherence and cohesion. So a clear structure and logic in your writing is really important, and again that's very formal structured writing. Moving to speaking, briefly, again there are 4 elements of the assessment. The first is fluency and cohesion. So does your spoken English naturally flow? Is there a logic to it? Do the ideas link? The second area is lexical resource. So that's the same as writing. That's the range of your vocabulary. There's also grammatical range and accuracy, same as writing. And the 4th area is pronunciation. So you don't need to aim for a particular country's accent, but you need intelligible English. So you need to be clearly understood by anybody. Sometimes when English is used within a country, you can have a first language effect or a particular accent. So by listening to the radio of different countries, you can hear what might be expected. Listen to radio from the US, from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK. As long as you're easily and widely understood, that is good pronunciation. I hope that answers the question. Is there anything specific?
We are right. Thank you, Mr. Dominic. That was, I think, you covered most of the areas. And we have received another question asking who evaluates the written examination, because we will be when the candidate sits for the exam at a different center. Does the paper come to the British Council, and is it the British Council that evaluates the paper, or how does it work?
For the writing skill component, all of the answers are, if it's a paper written test, the answers are scanned and they go to markers not based in Sri Lanka. So there should be an objectivity and there should be distance from the candidate to the examiner, so that system guarantees that objectivity. We have a very large team, a very large pool of examiners who mark the writing test. They have to prove themselves experts in English language. They are generally teachers or lecturers of the English language, and they go through very rigorous training. They have the marking schemes that I spoke about, and they are regularly assessed. So there is sampling of their marking ability to maintain fairness and high standards.
Right, thank you. Then, Dominic, yeah, the other thing, thank you very much. The other thing is, Dominic, can you, as the Director of Examinations at the British Council, when you look at candidates, I mean, what are the expectations of the examiner? Let it be in any of the bands. So, I think, because most of the professionals who are sitting, in fact the doctors, when they sit for the examination, it's not about the proficiency or not about their skill of the language, but I think there is something that they are missing what the examiner is expecting. So if you could explain what the examiner is looking for, because you have been an IELTS examiner and with the job role that you are at the British Council, if you can give us a small idea of what exactly the examiner is looking for during each component, so that it will make it easier for the preparations to happen. If you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so maybe let's start with writing, the area that is that can be more difficult here. The expectation is for formal, structured writing, and so for the task 1, descriptive writing, candidates, they should aim for 1 or 2 paragraphs. They should aim to write sentences which link logically. So you may begin by saying what the data is, and then looking at saying what the data is, what the general trends that you observe are, and then commenting on specific detail and quoting some of the statistics that the diagram or the chart shows. So that might include mentioning the years where trends rise, or where you have the lowest figures. And moving to the task 2, again, the structure of the writing is important, and a simple way to do that is to aim for 3 or 4 paragraphs. There is a word count in the writing component. Task 1 is 150 words minimum. Task 2 is 250 words minimum. So writing, perhaps 2 to 4 sentences in a paragraph, and in task 2, probably 3 to 5 paragraphs. So it should be, it's quite a short piece of text, but it has to be clear, structured, and going from general to detailed. And as I said before, the task 1 is description, factual, and the task 2 is discursive writing, showing different sides of an argument and an opinion. Moving to reading, which is perhaps the second most challenging area in Sri Lanka of IELTS. Candidates sometimes find that time is the biggest challenge. You will be used to reading very long articles and textbooks, but time is limited to 1 hour on the reading component, and you will have different texts. So in looking at the 40 questions, you need to identify what's required from those questions, and you will need to adjust your reading skill to the question. So an example might be, if a question asks what is the text about, you don't need to read in detail to answer that. You might skim read very quickly. So you use a speed reading technique. You flick your eyes left to right over the text and gather. Is it serious writing? What's the subject? Is it an opinion piece or descriptive? If a question asks about a specific name or when something happened, again, you would need a speed reading technique called scanning. And just as we scan barcodes, you might flick your eyes very quickly left to right or top to bottom over a text to identify a date, because numbers will stand out from letters in a text. So if the question is when, you know you're looking for either a date or a day or a month, and that you can achieve that very quickly by scanning to find that detail, rather than having to read a long text just for that one answer. There are some question types which may ask, is a statement true or false or not given in the text? These tend to be more complex questions, and you would need to spend longer to find this answer and get it right. To do that, you could apply the first two techniques of skimming and scanning to highlight the area, and then you might need to read the sentence in full. You may need to read it twice to be able to answer true or false or not given. So being aware of what the questions will be like and what kind of technique you can apply will help you be successful. It'll help you achieve the scores that you need. I think maybe a final point to make is do pay attention to the instruction. Be aware of the time limit. So as I said, writing is 1 hour component. Reading is a 1 hour component. Listening takes 30 minutes. And if you take the paper test, you will transfer your answers to the answer sheet. On the computer test, you put your answers straight in to the computer. And in the speaking component, that can be 11 to 15 minutes. And the examiner in the room or on a video link will give you clear instructions, and they'll give you a guideline of how long they want you to talk for. So for instance, speaking is divided into 3 sections. The first one is very general questions, your name, your job, your hobbies. The second part asks you to talk for 1 or 2 minutes on a specific subject, and you'll be given a card with a topic. And so you have 1 minute to prepare or make a few notes, and then 1 to 2 minutes to give a very short speech on that subject. And then the third part of the speaking skill test is a wider set of questions on the topic you spoke about. So they may be more discursive, more opinion-based questions. So if you look at the format of the test ahead, look at that on the apps we've mentioned or our website, know what to expect, and practice these skills. Practice with the different preparation we've talked about, practice with friends, and if it's challenging, then consider taking a class or finding a teacher to support you with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dominic, for that explanation. And I think we have obtained a very detailed about IELTS, and we have much knowledge about IELTS now. So my next question is for Mr. Shanita Pires. Are there any other English proficiency exams available at the British Council, and what are their uses?
So British Council offers IELTS as the most popular English language test for education and migration. So that is the main offer we have. We also do have Cambridge Assessment English, which also for young learners, for adults as well, which may not be the test for you to show your English language proficiency when you travel abroad or for work or studies. So we do have other tests, like we do have the PLAB exams, PLAB stage 1, which we facilitates the exam, which you will have to register with the organization. And we do have the MRCP stage 1 and stage 2 delivered through British Council, which also you need to register with the MRCP. So we do have other exams, but for English language proficiency, we have IELTS. Thanks.
So that's all. So we have also received a few questions asking about the ability of our candidates being able to sit for the MRCP and the PLAB examinations. So to make it clear, Mr. Shanita, it's all about facilitating the examination only. I think there is no preparation or any other thing that is offered by the British Council, is it?
Yes, we do not offer any preparation support for PLAB and MRCP because it is not one of our tests. So we are the facilitators on behalf of the examining body.
Right. We have also received a few questions with regard to the time duration. Mr. Shanita, they have asked, membership wants to know why is it valid for only 2 years? Is it a rule, or how does it work, or is there a possibility to extend it if for any reason, if there is some problem with the particular candidate? Is it possible?
Yes, English language testing system is a system to show your proficiency on the language skill. So as you know, the skills may change over time. If you don't use a particular skill, you will not. That's why we have consultant on different areas. A gynecologist might not do a normal orthopedic surgery. So likewise, English test, if you don't practice your English continuously, you might not be able to keep up to that standard. So that is why IELTS is valid for 2 years. So then you will have to redo your exam if needed. If you need to show your proficiency again, then you can do that test again. But that is why most of the organization want to check the ability of using English language from time to time. So that is why we have a 2-year validity period for the IELTS exam.
All right. Okay. Also, Mr. Shanita, the current cost for the examination, if you can just touch on that.
Yes, we have IELTS on paper, which will cost you 65,000 rupees, and IELTS on, if you prefer to take IELTS on computer, it will cost you 60,000 rupees in Sri Lanka.
Right. Thank you. So then, I think we are almost at the latter part of the discussion, and I think our membership would have got a very wide array of knowledge with regard to the things that we did not know about IELTS. And so just to summarize everything, Mr. Dominic, as the Director Exams at British Council, what is the take-home message that you would like to give in a few minutes to all our members and all the listeners?
Thank you. I think as a group of health workers, medical professionals, I believe you will have good level English. I think what's really important is to understand the expectations of the test, so that you can be prepared and not surprised by the test. So please do look at the British Council website, britishcouncil.lk. Please do have a look at other resources that we offer in terms of those prep apps. You can come to British Council in any of our centres, and we have libraries with resources that you can access, practice test books. So please, when you're looking for information or you're looking for some practice and some assistance, please come to British Council and use our resources. If you are considering taking some preparation course, that's also available in the British Council centres and through our partners as well. So to sum up, be ready, know what to expect in the exam, and you'll find it much more straightforward.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Dominic. And Mr. Shanita, just to cover up a few questions that we have been constantly getting with regard about OET. I think it's beyond your purview, but if you can just give a small explanation about what that particular exam is and whether there is any connection with the British Council with regard to OET.
We don't have any connections to OET exam, which is a highly specialized exam for the medical profession, which will be the testing system will be similar to IELTS because they will test on the language proficiency. The advantage the medical profession will have on that is you can use your own jargon, the medical jargon you can use. That is the advantage you will have. But they will test the testing of the English language will be same to IELTS.
Right. So I think we have covered dire questions of our membership with regard to the English proficiency examinations and especially about IELTS, and I think a lot of doubts could have been cleared, and we thank all the members who have joined us live from all over Sri Lanka, and also we'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Dominic Hudson, Director Examinations Sri Lanka from British Council, and Mr. Shanita Piris, Marketing Manager Exams, British Council Sri Lanka, for taking time off their busy schedule and visiting us at this office and joining live with our members from all over the country and enlightening us on how to prepare for IELTS, and has eased the anxiety that some people had with regard to taking IELTS. So that we will, with that we'll end the webinar for today, and hope to join you in 2 weeks time. Thank you.